It's time for story time. Story time with Norman, and this was a somewhat interesting experience that I had. My background, as you may know, was as an IT auditor, and I also spent 5 years in IT management, responsible for a lot of things in IT governance, such as information security, contingency planning, disaster recovery, policies and procedures, and so on and so forth. So this came up when I was at Tosco, and our major data center for the corporation was in Northern California, in the city of Concord. And it was obviously appropriate. This was a fairly new data center, had not been audited. So we did an information security audit. And we had an interesting finding. We found that there were significant gaps in the security, in the protection against intruders and against hackers. Now, this was before the day that it became rampant like it is today. But even so, this was a serious issue. We could have lost the ability to process all our transactions, to bill customers, collect funds, etc., etc. Also, there could have been some damage created. Maybe even, it was unlikely, maybe even somebody could got in and found a way to steal money from us. That one less likely. But still, it was a serious issue. And I sat down with the head of information, the IT, the CIO. He was a director of information technology. And we talked about it, and he agreed that there were serious issues. But as he pointed out, it was going to take a fair amount of money to address them. And that wasn't money he had in his budget. He did agree that it was a risk. He did agree with that it was a significant risk. But as he pointed out, they would have to buy additional software, spend money probably on consultants to help install it, and then he'd have to have additional employees to manage it. And as we talked, what surfaced was that the company had just purchased another refining business. This was an oil refining company of about the same size in New Jersey. And the plan was that sometime within the next 6 to 12 months, probably earlier, they would be setting up a new data center in New Jersey and closing down the one in California. Now, there might be some period, obviously, of transition, but the long term was to move everything over to New Jersey. And the more I thought about this, the more concerned I became about what was the right approach. What should we do, and what should I do as the head of internal audit? Because frankly, I knew that management and senior management and the board would look to me for my opinion as a business person, not just purely theoretical, but in terms of what I would do if I was in their shoes. So along comes the day when we're going to the audit committee, and I report to the audit committee that we did this audit of information security, and there were significant issues, and this was a major issue that they need to be aware of because of the level of risk. And then I said that my recommendation was that they not spend the money to fix it. Let me say that again, that they do not spend the money to fix it, but they take the risk. Instead, they should accelerate as far as possible, setting up the new data center and moving everything over, because the new data center was going to have the ability to spend the money to buy the software for information security, to have the information security personnel. And it just didn't, and frankly, that was going to be in a different environment with some different software running our financial and other applications. So anything we bought for the data center in California would not transfer over to the new data center in New Jersey. Now, the audit committee, of course, was stunned, and they asked the CFO and CEO whether they agreed with my assessment and recommendation, which they did. And so they accepted that. But they just stressed on the CEO and CFO, as they should, that management should move quickly to move everything over to the new environment and make sure that is clean. I pointed out that I had a very strong IT auditor, a gentleman called Tom Wisniewski, in New Jersey, and he was very actively involved in providing consulting information security and other controls around the setting up of the new data center and also about the implementation of the new systems. And so we were going to be making that a priority for internal audit over this period of time. And I felt that that was the right thing to do, and they felt so as well. And we got a lot of support from management. So I don't know about you, but as I've said in a previous story time with Norman, sometimes internal audit has to be willing to take a business perspective and recommend what is right for the organization, even if it means taking a level of risk that at first glance seems to be unacceptable. But I think it is our responsibility to remember that while we may be in internal audit, while we may be internal auditors and have the title of a manager or director or vice president for internal audit, we are members of the management team, and we need to be making decisions, the right decisions, and making recommendations, providing advice and insight to leaders of the organization for what is right for the organization, even if that means taking a level of risk that seems to be high. As long as everybody understands what the level of risk is and what all the alternatives are, we should be happy with that. Our job is done. We have communicated to them. We have provided our best business advice, and they have made the right decision. Thank you, and I wish you luck recommending, when it's appropriate, taking the right level of the right risk. Please subscribe to this video channel if you like it.